What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin today. Hit that like button, you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it, my friends. Here we are. Here we are at about $83,100. Had a recent drop, it looks like, yeah. While I was sleeping. Is that why I was tossing and turning at night? We closed down, or we had a low at about $82,364. I want to be very clear that just because we've seen this move with absolutely no volume at all and went right down to the RSI's 40 level and are seemingly bouncing off of it, I don't know. We still have an hour left in this 4 hour to go, so let's see how it goes. This by no means means that we're going down, right? The same people that are getting excited to the downside over this were the same people that were excited about going to the upside about this, right? Like it's nonsensical to get excited about a 2.2% move to the downside, right? So if anybody is getting excited for a 2.2% move to the downside, we have work to do before we go lower. If we are to go lower, right? From a low to a high, and you probably do honestly go a little bit lower. From a low to a high, I would need to see this thing get back below 80K, probably on a daily closing basis. If we were to consider that even, right? If we were to even consider going lower, let's see, where's the 236 of this relative fib from a high to a low? Yeah, 80,000 should do it. Yeah, if you get below 80K on a daily closing basis, that should do it. If not, if you do get back up above, I would say, yeah, I mean basically 85K. We'll say 84 and a half, 84.7, 85K, whatever. When you get back above 85K, it's time to go to the upside, right? Oftentimes, I will say, from a low to a high, whenever you do interact with the 236 in this manner, you don't stop. You don't continue to grow until you at least interact with the 382. Now don't get confused, right? If we go down to the 618, if we go all the way down here to the golden ratio, it's fine if you go to the golden ratio. But if you close down there, if you close below 80K, that's whenever downside targets to 74 to 69,000 could be on the table. And that's fine if they are, right? It's totally fine if you go down there. In fact, again, in case anybody's unaware, I have flipped recently bullish, definitely recently bullish. We flipped bearish down here. We flipped bullish right about here somewhere. And I'm still bullish even here. But throughout all this time, we've mentioned the possibility of going down to 74K to 69K, specifically 72 to 73K. And if we were to see that, that would complete this harmonic pattern, this bullish butterfly pattern. But the thing is, it's just this. I don't know. This is not very butterfly like. This thing's got like a deformed wing or something. I don't know. Who's to say though? It can't go down there. It definitely could still go down there. But it's something we should be aware of. I'm not mentioning it now to play both sides of the coin. I'm not mentioning it now to be like, haha, I told you so. No. Let's be clear. I'm bullish right now. C-Zar the bull is wide awake, even with me yawning. But it's a possibility we should consider because I promise you guys, not financial advice. Not a financial advisor, but I promise you that this is not what you should be worried about. It's missing out on this. That's what you should be worried about because this is the next area that we're going to go to. We're probably going to go up to 170K when all things are said and done. All right. Here we are on a weekly basis. If this week can close green in the next 9 hours and 6 minutes, as long as we don't dump down, we are getting a bounce in the same area that we've been bouncing all bull cycle. What do I mean by all bull cycle? I mean the whole damn bull cycle we've been bouncing here, man. Look. Bear cycle lows come up and you rip. Where did you find support? Right down there. And then where did you go? You ripped up to your next area. Found resistance up here. Actually, even found a little resistance right here, a little turbulence, but a more serious consolidation phase, and you found support at this line time and time again, right? It wasn't the first instance that you bounced, that you did continue to grow, but nonetheless, around this area, you were at the lows essentially, right? Any moments that you were spent below this weekly low close here, where you bounced from on the RSI, it was very, very like short amounts of time, very, very sparse moments that if you weren't awake for, you would have missed definitely, right? The price didn't hang out too long below those areas. If this is our weekly closing low, and we won't know, again, we won't know until the weekly close, and I will make a video at the weekly close later tonight on Bitcoin, just to have that, 2.9% up right now this week. We could definitely move down 2.9%. Over the next 9 hours, but even then, honestly, we could, if we don't close too red, this this won't go down too much. It'll more like flatline. It'll look something like this, but to the downside. So bouncing in this area nonetheless. And not only that, if you look at this, if we really zoom in here, you can see that this low is just above the white line. This low is just below it, and this one's even lower. You've got lower lows coming in with higher lows on your weekly RSI. Again, if I had to care about what direction to be right or wrong about, this is not the time to care about being right or wrong. Who cares? You're going to care about the price going down a little bit, like maybe $10,000 at the most, and you're going to miss out on the price going up. Well, maybe not that much. I mean, yes, in time it will, but maybe something that's about, just under $100,000 more. I think this thing's going to double, if not more, when this move is all said and done. I think we will move much at this pace here, if not faster. I am expecting this next move from a low to a high to be the biggest move that we've seen all cycle. Why do I think that? Well, for one, we've also bounced in this area every single time, and it's promoted that next growth phase, right? And I would assume that, like this last growth phase that we had here, we will not have a long consolidation phase in the middle of it. It might be something that's, let's see, how long was this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks. On the 9th week, we broke out, right? Not that long, right? 2 months. 2 months of consolidation compared to these over 3-month consolidation phases that we've been dealing with all cycle. It's not normal to consolidate for more than 3 months for Bitcoin generally, just around the halving time. But anyways, if we look at these moves from a low to a high, and we'll just go to the high, not this high, not the fake out high, but the high of the move. That was a 100% move. If you go from this low to this high, that was a 97% move. If we go from this low to this high, that was a 91% move. Overall, this whole move itself, and I would consider this a whole move, that was 196% of a move, right? But two 90% moves, 100% move there. From this low to the high, it's only getting bigger since the halving has happened, 121%. I would expect that as we continue to grow from here, wherever our low might be, we will see a move that is likely just as big, if not in that proximity, or even bigger than what we've seen before, right? From here, 173 to 175K, 170K itself, that would give us a larger move than the last move. Something comparable nonetheless, but a larger move. And the difference between, I think, at least what I would expect of this move versus this last move, is this last move here, from the low to the high, took 19 weeks. Okay, it took 19 weeks to achieve, to fully mature. From the point that we're at now, let alone if this is the low or not, from the point that we're at now, I can't imagine this thing lasting too much longer than half that time, right? Like 9 weeks, 12 weeks, somewhere in that kind of time frame is likely what we would see by the end of May is what I'm expecting. So this move not only will be bigger or of a similar magnitude, but it'll be faster overall, right? And I really do expect that the pace is going to pick up. Why do I expect that? Well, I'm glad you asked. We're in a long-term mood today, so let's go over the long-term stuff. Ready? The reason, actually, this is not the right chart to use. Let's see. And USDT, why was I on Coinbase? I thought I was on Binance. I want to look at this real quick. Yeah, no volume at all. If there's no volume on Binance, there's no volume anywhere. BTC USD, talking about why I think things are going to move faster and bigger, right? Bigger and better and faster. It will be better than ever before. We will have a Bitcoin unlike anything the world has ever seen. Let's see here. Hold on. Okay. So if we go back in time, all the way back in time, and we put up some lines. We're going to put up some lines, you guys, some big vertical white lines, okay? That's what we're going to do. The very first halving that we ever had was in November 28th of 2012. The next halving that we had, I have a point, just stick with it, okay? Was July 9th, 2016, which would have been this week here. The next halving that we had was May 11th, which I gotta move over just to get that. May 11th, 2020, which was this week here. And the most recent halving that we had was April 20th, 2024, which would have been this week here. Okay. If we concoct a little, visual demonstration here. If we draw the lows here from the bear market lows to the high that happened before the halving, right? So this is your pre-halving move. This happened before your halving. And then we draw a line from the lows after the halving, which I don't know where that low would be, maybe here, to the highs after the halving. You can see that the pre-halving move versus the post-halving move, before the halving versus after the halving, this move is bigger. And you'll notice that that's a trend that keeps up throughout Bitcoin's whole existence, whole entire existence. That doesn't let up at all. From the bear market lows, or even just the beginning of the bull market, to the highs before the halving, the pre-halving highs, that's your move right there, right? Essentially. It's more complicated than that. It's not just a straight line, but if we are using straight lines, that's essentially it, just from the low to the high. This will tell you everything you need to know, right? Come on now. Come on. Something like this. Pre-halving move versus your post-halving move, which one's bigger? It's pretty easy to see, right? Pretty damn easy to see. From a low here before the halving, right? This is your pre-halving move. And then we're not going to take this low, right? We're not going to take that low because that was still before the halving. So post-halving low was right here. And the all-time high was here. Depending on how you want to draw it, you know, it could be a much bigger line like that, or I'm just going to say to the end of the cycle. The end of the cycle's high was right here, I think. That was the end of the bull cycle to me. That's not the end of the cycle. That was the cycle high, but let's not get confused. And yet still, it was a bigger move overall. Now, what is different about this one versus the last two is that you can see the pitch here, the angle at which we increase is larger after the halving. It's smaller before the halving, right? The pitch is lower. The slope is lower. But if we look at this last cycle, the pre-halving move had a higher slope than the post-halving move did. Okay, so that's just something to take into consideration that can happen. But last cycle was also weak. I think last cycle was weak as hell, you guys. It was a bad cycle. It's a very bad cycle. This cycle, I think, is actually a pretty damn good cycle. A lot of people are upset about it for whatever reason. I can't imagine why. I mean, from last cycle, June of 2019, we didn't see prices above that high until right here, right? You can see where the line is, right? Let me just try and make that obvious. You see where it is? You see where we broke above it? It was right here. We didn't get above that high. We literally had lower highs for 490 days, okay? We haven't had a period like that in this cycle. We haven't had, that was way more, but people don't remember the past. They only remember what's right in front of them. This was 224 days, quite literally less than half of what we saw last time before we broke to new highs, right? This cycle is dramatically better than last cycle. Look, the pre-halving move, bigger than the post-halving move. Actually, or the pre-halving move of this cycle, but pretty close overall. It just took more time, which is probably why we didn't have to consolidate as much. Moving up too fast can result in a longer need to consolidate, okay? Pre-halving move here, post-halving move is the low, and we don't know where the high is, okay? But let's assume that we have a similar move, a very similar move, which we won't. It's going to be bigger. We know that much at least. But let's say it's an exact replica of our pre-halving move here. If we put this at the low, right, because it goes from the post-halving low, then that would imply that Bitcoin would at least be at $233,000 by November of this year. But we know that that's not going to be true. Why do we know that's not going to be true? Because historically speaking, and being that we are in a stronger cycle than last cycle, the expectation should be that we increase at a higher rate of growth. We see something at a higher rate of growth. And the expectation should be, you know, something that is bigger overall. It is a bigger move. So if we were to see a bigger move, and we were to end the cycle sometime in November to September, something like this, the only way to do that, because if we move back in time, if you think November's not going to be the cycle high, okay, that's fine. Then what if it's October, November, September, August, whatever? This line's getting smaller. The more that I bring it back, but I keep it at that same price, the smaller this line gets. So we know that's not going to happen, right? So if it's not going to end, if you're not on board, and I'm not on board with the idea that Bitcoin tops off in November, I think it's going to top off in October, and you're on board with the idea that we will see a higher elevated pitch, unlike last cycle. And I wonder actually if we do take this low, I mean maybe no, that's still not at a higher pitch. It's closer, but no, not at a higher pitch. But that's also pre-halving low. I was just seeing if this move overall, you know, we could think of it that way. But I would think that the only way to rectify this difference in the price here would be to see a higher price, right? A higher price. And I very much do believe that Bitcoin's going to see a $500,000 price. Even if it were to be in September or in the very beginning of October, let's see if we can get it. Let's try and get it in August even, right? Even here, this move would be bigger overall, right? Wouldn't it? I wish I had, let's see, distance 190 pixels. This one right here, it says right there. This one's 181. So even if we topped off in August, and it was at 500,000, it would still be a bigger move, right? Let alone if it tops off at 500,000 in November, it'll be a much bigger move, right? And that's what we're looking for. If anything, this makes me think that 500,000 might not be the stopping point, or maybe we're wrong in assuming that the cycle ends in 2025. I'm still holding to the idea that we stop in 2025. And the reason why I think we go to 500K, of course, is that Bitcoin will likely see its 2272 as the cycle high. The 2272 is at 462K. Oftentimes with these 2272s, you go just above it, right? If we go back in time, you can see that from this cycle's high to this cycle low, and this is some stuff that we've talked about recently. And really throughout my time doing TA, we went just above this 2272 here, like literally just above it, but we stopped right at that level nonetheless. If you go to the prior cycle here, if you go to this all-time high to this cycle low, come on now. That one is also right above the 2272, if I can get it on there. Come on now, there we go, right above the 2272 right there. The only cycle that didn't do that was last cycle, and the only cycle that did not have a steeper slope going into the end of its post-halving move, that was last cycle. So last cycle was very weak. I don't expect this cycle to be weak. It's not weak. It is definitely performing better than last cycle already. But we just we haven't shown too much of that yet. Okay, we'll see how it goes. We'll definitely see how it goes, but I'm expecting that Bitcoin continues to grow at an unprecedented rate. And again, the main kind of essence of this is I don't care how low we go right now. That doesn't matter, right? We've got a lot more work to do to the upside. Okay, but if we were to go lower and you wanted to validate the notion that we go down to, I don't know, 73, 70K, 69K, maybe at least 74K, somewhere in that area, then get below 80K again on a daily closing basis. Don't get excited if we wick below there. You have to close below there. And if you want to validate that we're not going lower and that we're going higher, get above 85K on a closing basis. Really, 91K is the area that we need to watch for. I don't think that I have anything else that I want to say, right? 4-hour RSI looking fine. Bouncing off the 40 is not a bad thing. Daily RSI also looking fine. You are postured rather well to break out of this downtrend, I think, right? But time will tell. We'll see how it goes. You're basically right there now, but you could come down a little bit. It's not crazy to reject this area, is it? Not crazy at all. You could come down and find a higher low, something like that. There's no problem with that. But if we do start to break this kind of formation here, this higher low formation here, we might be looking to get into the oversold zone one last time. And if we do see that, that's of course going to bring us down to these prior high areas here. I don't think I have anything else that I want to say. Hit the like button, you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thank you all for being here. And just because, and I am saying this, okay? Just because the likelihood, the statistical likelihood right now would be that we go below $82,000. That does not mean that we have to go to lower lows, right? Don't be surprised if we move down to 82K. Don't be surprised if we move down to 80,000, right? That's not enough to validate that we're going lower yet. We need a day to close below 80,000 before we get too worried about it. And even then, it's not over until 77K technically, 77.6. But if we do get above 85K, what's great about 85K is we don't even have to close. If we get, to be fair though, it would be nice to close. If we wicked up here and then we close down, that might look like a double top scenario. But if we do close above 85K, that would be very validating that we are going to the upside. We're a lot closer to that, I think, than we are to 80K. So, but tomato, whatever, man, it's all going to be fine at the end of the day. Hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.